David's the Executive Director of the Motion Picture Industry Pension and Health Plans. He's been in that position since December of 2009. I think many of the people in this room may be familiar with David. He's been making the rounds to many union meetings and executive board meetings. If he hasn't made it to yours yet, invite him. I don't think he has any plans for this weekend other than this, so he'll be available. David?
So now I'm going to share some information specific to MPI to follow on what John said with respect to industry trends. He showed you national trends, he showed you industry trends, and he showed you some MPI statistics, and I will follow on that. The first thing I wanted to remind us all about is MPI's mission. When I joined MPI, we had a mission and vision statement, and they were each about a paragraph long, and I didn't think that they were quite crisp enough in describing what we do. So we did the same thing you're embarking upon, is we did a lot of employee conversations and a lot of management conversations. And what I tried to get across is, what are we in the business of doing? When employees come to MPI every day, what is our mission in life? And employees came up with this on their own. Our mission every day we come to work is to improve the quality of your life. We touch your pension and your health, and those are two incredibly personal and important aspects of what makes your life have a quality to it. And we are involved in that, and we talk about it every day at the plants. If one of us makes a mistake in some corner of our building, next week, next month, next year, next decade, that mistake may come back and impact the quality of your life. So we must come to work every day thinking only how to make your life better and do what we do in a way that will enhance the quality of your life. So that is our mission, and we talk about it every day, and we think it, and we believe in it. With respect to participant focus, we've done a couple of things in the last couple of years that I just wanted to highlight. One is we really created the first participant service center ever at MPI, and we did it in Studio City here. And John Ballantyne, who's been with the plans for 35 years, many of you know him, say it's the first time we have actually space planned specifically for Participant Service Center. Celso Perez was the first director of that Participant Services Center, and its sole focus is to answer your calls and take care of your questions and concerns. With respect to that, we put a new toll-free number in place. Some of our participants actually had to pay to call us. We eliminated that. We put an 855 Ask for MPI number in place so that all of you can call us wherever you are, on assignment, on vacation, wherever you live, can call us toll-free at 855 Ask for MPI. Now, I wanted the calls to be 855 Call MPI, but if you go to your phone later and you look at MPI, it's also the digits for ORG, or orgy. And since we live in the valley, Celso would come into my office and say, we can't get that number. And he would explain it to me, and Celso, would get a little embarrassed and flush. Anyway, we finally ended up with Ask for MPI and got through that hurdle. But that's the number, 855 Ask for MPI. Now, with respect to participant calls, there are a lot of you in this room. You call. We have a lot of members. In 2010, we got 283,000 phone calls from participants. Almost 2 years ago, and I'm cutting us some slack here, but it plays with what I want to say, it took us, on average, 11 minutes to answer a call. In fact, it was often a lot longer than that. And as a result, we track another statistic, which is abandoned calls, which is how many of you hang up before we can answer the phone because it took us too long to answer it. And our abandoned call rate was 23%. So 23%, almost 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people who called us waited so long on the phone they hung up. When I promoted Celso and said, your number one job is to bring that stat down. And again, labor trustees behind us all the way in staffing it and technology, everything we wanted, they said yes. On August 11th, 2011, the average wait time that day on 950 participant phone calls was 11 seconds. We went from 11 minutes to 11 seconds. And with regard to that, on August 11th, out of 950 phone calls, only 11 people hung up. And the call wait time was so short, they must have misdialed. Couldn't have been abandoned. So our abandonment rate went from 23% to literally 0. And I want to thank Celso again for the hard work of his team. Now, health claims, the focus of today. MPI processed in 2010 1,400,000 health claims. This is a lot of process, and it takes people and it takes technology. What we've done in the last year is we've reduced the processing time by 33%, from an average of 30 days to adjudicate a claim and process it to 20 days. And most of our claims are adjudicated a lot faster than that, but on average, all of them are out of the house in 20 days. So what does that do? That makes your provider happy because he or she gets paid sooner. It makes their facility happy. It reduces phone calls to us, rework to us, and other issues. So this is an important driver to affect the quality of your life and to affect the efficiency of the plans internally. So this is a very important number. Notwithstanding the fact we're answering calls under a minute on average, and sometimes far faster, and that we're processing claims 33% faster today than we were 2 years ago, we spend less on administrative expenses than 95% of all Taft-Hartley plans in the country. So we are doing this on a shoestring. So we are not flush in administrative expenses, and when I compare our stats to other plans, we do better from a performance point of view, and we do it with less funding. So this is very important because what money we spend can come out of the benefit pocket, and we want to make sure that we are running our plan as efficiently as possible. And again, under George's leadership and those in the room, that's been the plan at MPI. Now, we do several things. One of the things that is most important is we manage money in the pension plans. And we have two plans, as you know, an IAP plan and a pension plan. The IAP plan is a defined contribution plan where 6% more or less of compensation comes in and is managed. That's the blue line. We manage the pension plan, which is a defined benefit plan. Money comes in, we invest it, and when people vest and retire, a benefit is paid out. You can see the assets on both plans are at about $2.5 billion, and in total, we're managing just under $6 billion in assets under management. And one of the things I'm very proud of is the investment results in these two plans have really been very strong. And Ron Kutak isn't here today, I don't believe, but he's been joint chair of the Finance Committee, and Ron and his colleagues on that committee have done a tremendous job avoiding fads, avoiding flukes, avoiding stupid mistakes, staying the course, and in the last 2 or 3 years have decided to take some risk off the table from the equity side and put it in bonds and other alternative investments to reduce our risk a bit, which has been a very good move given all the volatility in the markets. But you can see over a 20-year time period, we're hitting our target of 8% in both plans. For the year ended August 31st, we hit 13 and 12% in both plans. Through September 30th, they're not going to look quite that good. But the strategy and the management of these plans is stellar. Healthcare reform, we've already talked about it. Healthcare reform, as I have said to many of you, is good for David Wescoe as a parent, and it's not so great for David Wescoe as a plan administrator. Why? Because David has 4 children, all over the age of 19, 3 of whom who would not have healthcare coverage today, but for healthcare reform. So we are covering dependent children up to age 26, pursuant to healthcare reform, where in the past we covered up to age 19, unless they were a full-time student, we covered up to age 23. So good for us and our families, a little more expensive for the plan. Lifetime medical maximums, $2 million, were removed. Annual dollar limits were removed. TMJ had a $2,500 annual limit. That was removed. $300 comprehensive physical exam limit was removed. So good for families, good for participants, a little more expensive for the plan, as John indicated. What's next? This is what's next. No one can predict what's going to happen with healthcare reform until it gets to this group. And I just want to say on a personal note that I'm lucky to be here because I took constitutional law from Ruth Bader Ginsburg, lower right. And let me tell you, she's even more fun in person. I think it's a very fair statement. I was not her most favorite student. So now I'm going to shift gears a little bit, and we're going to move into MPI's financial history. As most of you know, there's a waterfall. when respect to money comes into MPI. When money comes in, 6% or whatever the contribution amount is for the IAP goes right to the IAP and is credited to the participant account. On the other side of the house, the hourly contributions and the residual and post-60s money goes in first to the pension plan. And the pension plan is funded pursuant to an actuary telling us how much money must go in a pension plan. And no matter how much money comes in, the requisite amount of money has got to go to the pension plan, goes there. Which means what is left from the pension allocation then goes to retiree health, active health, and if any is left over at the very end, reserves. And what you will see later in the presentation here is we've not been funding reserves in the last few years because of economic conditions, both in the industry and nationally and internationally, and also because of industry economics. But that's the flow of money into MPI. So here's what happened in 2010. Total employer contributions in 2010 were $886 million, coming from hourly contributions of $349, residuals of $378, and the IAP $179. And I'm going to show you how that money over time has been spent. I mean, not spent, but been allocated. So hourly contributions have moved up since 2003 from under 200 to over $300 million, moving northeasterly. Residual payments, northeasterly but flat. And that's an industry trend and an industry economic that has a significant impact on MPI's plans. Pension and health. Residual money goes to the pension plan. If we need less money in the pension plan, that money goes to the health plan. But if there's less residual money, or if it begins to flatten out, and we have more money going to the pension plan, less goes to the health plans. So seeing residuals move in this direction is not a great industry economic trend. And IAP percent of compensation, as compensation is moved, that percentage is moved. So benefits paid in 2010. MPI is a phenomenal pension and health plan. And pension payments paid in 2010 were $200 million on the pension side and $71 million on the IAP. Retiree health benefits, we paid $79 million in retiree health benefits. And on the active plan, $420 million in benefits for active MPI participants and their dependents. So a lot of benefits being paid by MPI. I will share a statistic with you that I share occasionally when I'm talking to people. On the health side, 0.8% of our membership generates 30% of that cost. And so it's not even the 80-20 rule. 0.8% of our membership incurs 30% almost of our medical expense. So benefits paid historically from 2003, this is pension benefits moving nicely in a northeastern direction. IAP benefits, same. Very robust plans, very robust. Retiree health benefits paid, moving kind of in a nice trend. 2009 is when some benefit changes were implemented that staved off rate of growth there, and you'll see in the active plan that what John was talking about, all those trends were hitting the MPI plan. A few changes in 2009 reversed that just slightly, and then it's on the uptick again, as I will show. So now here's the issue on health costs and pension costs for the MPI plan and for all of us in this room. And the issue is 2013, 14, and 15. Pension plan funding requirement. As I like to tell my children, actions have consequences. And one of the consequences of the market meltdown in 2008 and the volatility we have experienced subsequent to 2008 is more money must go into the pension plan to make it actuarially sound. And I'm here to tell you, your plan is extremely sound. We are in the green zone. We are funded at approximately 83% funded. Those are very healthy numbers. Pension plan is in very good shape, but in order to keep it in that shape, and the actuary predicts it will be in the green zone for years going out, it requires more money in. And what I'm showing you here are the projections that we are looking at from the actuary going forward in 2013, 14, and 15 is the red line, and that's approximately $190 million more dollars that has to go into the pension plan in the next 3-year cycle, 13, 14, and 15, that had to go in the last one, 10, 11, and 12. So that's the projection out, about $190 million more dollars will be required over the next 3 years as was required in the last 3. Healthcare expenses. No surprise, John laid this out for you very clearly. Expenses are going up, trending up for us, and we project that they will continue to go up. And this will impact us, between this and administrative costs, about $180 million more in the next 3-year period versus 10, 11, 12, or August 09 to July 12, through the next period, which will take you from 12 to 15. So healthcare expenses, again, projected to go up. Plans reserves. It's important, just like it is, you and your families, you want to save for a rainy day. The plan had, as you can see in 2003, an extremely well-funded reserves in the retiree health plan and also in the active plan, of over 30 months in the retiree and 10 in the active. That is more than reasonable. And over the time period from 2003 to 2012, the trustees made a very prudent decision to bring those reserves down to still reasonable levels of 6 and 8 months for the plans. And that gave us the ability to use some money from the reserves to fund benefits. Now that we have executed that strategy, which again was dictated by, I think, prudence, we will end up with no more 30, no more 10, no more 12 reserves. That money has been used and gone, but to maintain a safety net, to save for a rainy day, if we stay at 6 and 8, that will have an impact on the plan financially. And that will, to the tune of about $75 million to maintain reserves at a 6 and an 8 month level over the next 3-year cycle. So I've mentioned $190 million for the pension plan increase in the next 3 years projected. I've mentioned $180 in healthcare projected over the next 3 years, and now $75 million to keep the health reserves at approximately 6 and 8 months in each plan. When you take those expenses, let's look at money coming in. Based on current projections from the bargaining parties, the contribution projections from the producer side, 2013 to 15, is very flat. Why? Industry economics, DVDs, elements you know better than I do. But we are in a very tough industry time period, and their projections are relatively flat. Expense projections, of course, as John indicated, and as I've talked about through the pension and the like, are not projected to be flat. In fact, we project a pretty steady increase in our expenses going forward 2013, 14, and 15. So what does that do? That gives us a shortfall. Now, even though revenues, I showed you on a couple of slides earlier, are flat, see a little bump up in 2013 because we still have the ability to use some finance from the reserves before they get to a 6 and 8 month. So there's a little bump in money we can use in 2013 time period. But then, as the slide showed earlier, it flattens and expenses are up. So what I tried to do is present for you here a little picture that if you have income on the green line and expense on the red line, you're going to have a shortfall. And we have one. And the issue is that the bottom line is this, that given today's projected contribution reserve and expense trends through July, the bargaining parties are looking at that shortfall is an estimated $500 million today. So that is a projected shortfall based on trends today. Now, keyword today, keyword estimated, keyword projected. I cannot emphasize enough that factors over which none of us have any control will dictate whether these projections are accurate or whether they may even be too optimistic. First and foremost is the performance in the U.S. and world stock markets and money markets everywhere. We put our bets a lot of places, domestic, international, stocks, bonds, alternatives, real estate, but all those markets have been incredibly volatile. And oftentimes you have a structured portfolio, put some in equities, put some in bonds because they're counter-cyclical and they don't follow one another in terms of trends. That's not been the case recently. It's historic that asset classes that were not supposed to be correlated all of a sudden have become correlated. And things that when they go down, others should go up, they both go down. So we are at great risk in the financial markets. Now, there's not much we can do about it except exactly what the Finance Committee is doing, which is taking a little risk off the table and hedging our bets in as many asset classes as possible. But we've got to be in the market. We can't put this money in a CD. We can't put this money in the mattress. We've got to be in the markets we're in. Secondly, as John mentioned, healthcare trends. Healthcare trends are running away from us. Nothing many of us in this room can do anything about. And also industry trends. You know, what people buy, how they buy it, where it's produced, you know better than I do, but those trends impact these projections. But I'm here to tell you, given these somewhat troubling projections and numbers and stats, the plan staff is doing all we can do as efficiently and as cheaply as we can do it. And the trustees are doing everything they can do in a prudent fiduciary position for your benefit to make sure that this plan is as solid and sound as it is. And as I mentioned, the pension plan, green zone, 83% funded. IAP, your accounts are safe, funded, and invested a tad more conservatively than the pension plan. What we're doing is paying off, but there are trends beyond our control that are going to paint a very dicey picture for the next 3-year cycle. So this is what it looks like today based on projections at MPI. I've given you a little history, and with that, I'll turn this back over to Mike.